Hello everybody, thanks for joining us. This week we will be reviewing The Thing by John Carpenter.
Yes, you have never seen it, but I have, and we will see if Damian likes this movie. Cult classic favorite from '82. Hello and welcome to the Damian and Devlin Show. Today we're reviewing The Thing, the 1982 science fiction horror directed by John Carpenter and starring Kurt Russell, T.K. Carter, Wilfred Brimley,
Keith David,
and
a whole bunch
of other people. And this is a movie that I saw a couple of years ago for the first time, and it was always on my must-see list because people always say how incredible this movie is. And I gave it a watch a couple of years ago, and Damian always said that he wanted to see it. And I thought, well, since winter is here, now would be a time, since the backdrop is Antarctica. And this was your first time seeing it. Do you want to give any quick hints, and then before we say what it's about, or do you want to tell us what it's about first?
Well, I do actually have a little bit of familiarity with this movie going into it. I've heard of it as well, that it was really good. It's a cult classic these days. My introduction to this movie actually came in the form of the video game adaptation, and I believe that came out in the early to mid 2000s on the PlayStation 2, if I'm not mistaken. It was a long time ago, and I think what happens is you play as the rescue team going in after the events of the movie, and you have to kind of manage your team, and they each have their own kind of like mental state of mind and whatnot as you slowly progress through the game and uncover what's going on here. And so that was my introduction to it, and I fell in love with the game, never having seen the movie, and since then I've wanted to, and thankfully, thanks to you, I finally had a chance to sit down and watch it.
And I told Damian a little fun fact about this. In one of his earliest movies, Halloween, on Halloween night, Jamie Lee Curtis's character's babysitting two kids, and they're actually watching the original Thing, which is a totally different movie, but this movie is a remake, and a lot of people forget that because they're very different. Although I've never seen the original. The original looks like one of those old 1950s sci-fi with the green Martians and stuff. But you can tell John Carpenter's love that there's quite a lot of scenes in the background of that movie, and so he decided to remake it. I always thought that was kind of nice. It's a nice tribute to...
And for those that have been longtime viewers of ours, don't get confused. He actually is calling the movie by its proper title, The Thing.
Yes, I tend to forget words and say thing, and so this, and when we do the Addams Family, I will be ready because they have the character thing, so we're good. Do you want to tell us what it's about?
Basically, TLDR of the plot is it takes place at an American research station in Antarctica, and for some reason there is another outpost there composed of Norwegians, and the movie starts with a couple of the Norwegians chasing down this dog who runs to the American research station, and from there things just kind of slowly start to unravel. I really don't want to go into much more of what it's about.
I think we're going to hit a little bit of it.
There might be a couple of spoilers in this.
I did mention science fiction. Keep that in mind. It's not just horror.
Within the first couple of minutes of the movie, within the first 30 seconds actually, you see a spaceship crash land on Earth. And basically that's the setup of the research, not necessarily the research stations, but it has a lot to do with the research stations in the nearby area. So that's basically it. Alien crash lands on Earth. Things happen.
There you go. Good night, folks. Oh, yeah, no, we have to actually review it, too. Do you want to start with your positives?
You go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I saw this a couple of years ago, and I liked it a lot, but I didn't love it as much as other people. This has got a huge cult. I don't know if it was that big a success in theaters, but it picked up a cult following, and a big cult following, as this is one of John Carpenter's best. Now, when I saw it this time, I actually got more out of it. So I actually think I like it better than when I first saw it. So maybe a couple of viewings for me, it needed. I don't think this is a perfect film by far, but I do like a lot of the stuff. First of all, John Carpenter, I think this is one of his best films. I still have to hold Halloween really high because it's my favorite horror movie. But this is really close as far as directing goes. He has some great shots in this, and I think he does a wonderful job with everything, making the surroundings look very claustrophobic. I was commenting that I had a feeling Damian might enjoy this because there is a lot of alien. And did you get that feel?
Yeah, you were pointing out the isolation feeling, the fact that nobody can come help them, essentially, throughout the entire ordeal, even though they're trying to send for help. And just kind of the claustrophobia of the narrow hallways of this research station that they are effectively trapped in and can't escape.
Yeah, I like, this is a weird thing that I liked about it, but I actually am starting to realize that I really like movies that are set in winter or in weird places, like, you know, The Shining, The Thing, Dead Snow. I think it's a good backdrop, and I'm surprised people don't use it more often.
Well, it works really well for horror, especially for this kind of horror. You want to make the audience feel isolated, and I feel a lot of the newer horror movies kind of take that away, because nowadays we have the usage of the cell phone and all that. And with this being set in Antarctica, which is basically nobody lives there, and it's the coldest place on Earth, of course they have nowhere to go. And it works so well because you feel trapped just like they do. They quickly lose access to their only means of escape. I'm not going to say what, how, or why, but it just proves a very effective backdrop for horror. So I totally agree with you there.
I like that John Carpenter gets the isolation, and a lot of the rooms are very claustrophobic. Even if it's big rooms, there's always supplies on the walls and stuff that make it even smaller. And I even noticed, like, when they even went through bigger hallways, they would have, like, because it's a small base, they'd actually literally have supplies all over the place. And I liked that. I don't know why. It just kind of made it feel like, you know, they have a system, but it still looks like chaos a little bit in somewhere.
Yeah, it's organized chaos.
Right, and it makes every room very claustrophobic, and it works really good. I love the music in this. I was making a comment. I was very surprised because John Carpenter likes to, maybe he wrote the music, but it was done by, oh, now I got to remember the name. I will not remember the name. And Ennio Moro.
We'll have our editor throw the name at the bottom of the screen.
Yes. He's a very famous, like, I think he's the guy who did The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, but I might just be screwing up totally here. But the music's very weird because there's not really, it's not like an orchestral score. It's almost like sound shapes, kind of like just like very ominous.
There's a moment where Wilford Brimley's character mentions he hears weird noises all around him because he's in a shack at one point, and that's to me what the soundtrack felt like. It felt like just weird noises. It filled me with a sense of tension, anxiety, and foreboding, and I think that's what the composer was going for, is because that's exactly the feelings that these guys are going through, and it helped me be put on edge exactly with them. And that's, I'm gonna kind of hijack this.
No problem.
I think that the storytelling in this movie is phenomenal. I went into it, I didn't know who any of these guys were, but then the moment that I realized, okay, what's going on here, I started to feel for them. Even the ones without any really kind of character development, the ones that die early and all that, I felt for them. I was anxious. I literally had no idea who was who I could trust, just like the characters were going through here. The script writing, taking a term from you, is very tight, in my opinion. It's very to the point, and it's very effective in its delivery here.
Absolutely. One of the things I will segue to using the script is, one thing I did like is I like that the alien, I guess we've said that already, so that's not much. The thing is smart. Like,
yes.
That's the one thing that I'm impressed by. Where you've seen other alien movies like Alien, where I'm not saying they're not smart, but they work kind of like an animal. This one literally thinks like a higher being, and I like that. It's not just doing things like just for the sake of doing it. It has ideas, and it uses all the, you know, the brain power it has, and I think that is really great for the script. The last thing I'll mention that I really love is, I love how far CGI has come, but being the old guy in the troupe, I really like a good horror movie with practical effects, and I really enjoyed a lot, not all, but a lot of the practical effects in there. I just love old style, like just the way they make stop motion and the way just the way they crafted it, you know that somebody was there just like making like sculptures for these things. And I have to give it kudos for that. And a lot of it still looks good. I wish I could say all of it does, but there are some glaring, but we'll get to that in the negatives. I'll pass it over to you. Oh, Kurt Russell. That's all I'll say. Kurt Russell. I like him in this movie.
He's very good. I like Kurt Russell a lot too. I have no issues with any of the actors. I felt like they all did their part. From the random Norwegians at the very beginning of the movie, to the dog, to the other character.
Just random Norwegians. Sorry.
He did his job.
I know, but I like the random Norwegians.
Well, one of my favorite lines from one of the characters is just, maybe we're at war with Norway. We don't know, because that's how isolated they are. But all the actors did their jobs, and they did them effectively. Yeah, some of the practical effects not so great, but most of them, like you mentioned, are awesome. There is one usage from my own perspective of seeing this for the very first time of a green screen, and I caught it right away. Kurt Russell and two other characters are standing in front of a crater, and it's quite clear that the crater they're looking in has a green screen effect. And I caught it right away, so I had to take a little bit of points off of it for that. And the practical effect that you're talking about, people that have seen this movie will probably know what we're talking about is, how would you even describe it? The stomach teeth. The stomach teeth.
Yeah, when they're using the
defibrillator.
Yes.
Deliberator. They're using the thing.
Yes.
The defibrillator. This guy's stomach opens up, and the whole practical effects behind it, as everything that follows, including like his head and all that, is just really bad.
It reminded me of something from Beetlejuice.
It was,
like comic, like humorous.
It was really bad. But besides that, I said to Donald or Devlin at one point, is that not a lot of movies can gross me out.
I was hoping you'd mention this because I was going to bring it up.
Yeah, not a lot of movies can gross me out. I'm of the generation that was raised with gore and ultra-violence in our video games, our TV, and our movies. This movie grossed me out. This is really a very good example of body horror. Not only when it comes to humans either. There's a lot with animals, and just, some of the noises that they chose to make were really disgusting. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, because I watching this, I felt uncomfortable, and that's what added to my stress and anxiety with the cast. Anybody that can watch this and say, oh yeah, that's fine, is a little off, in my opinion, because somebody as engrossed in gore and violence as me, still getting upset, kudos again to this movie for how it delivers it, is because it does its job, and it does its job effectively. I don't really have that many negatives. There are a couple of plot holes that I did pick up on, questions that still I have unanswered. The movie itself kind of is one of those movies where it ends as a choose your own ending. It leaves it completely ambiguous as to how the movie ends, and to who is infected, if they're not infected.
That's a John Carpenter thing. He does it in a lot of Halloween.
And you know what? I felt I was constantly asking myself throughout this movie, going right into the end, how are they going to wrap this up? And I felt the way that they did was very effective. It plays with your mind. It's more mind games. And that's what this movie basically is you can't trust anything, not even what you're watching on screen.
That's good. And you do have some negatives still to talk about, because I haven't talked about mine, and you'll probably be against them.
Okay.
But there isn't a lot, I will say that. You did touch on the stomach mouth, so I won't go into that. But it was kind of... I think why it works at first is because you are shocked by it. And then after you think about it and going, that was kind of dumb looking, but you're shocked at first, so maybe it is effective, but it almost is, it gets you the shock, so you're like, oh, no, that didn't work. But I will say that I did like all the actors in this, and I think they do the most with this, but I don't think there was any real character development in this. And as I said, it's amazing the actors still managed to do the best job they could with this. Like, even though I thought Kurt Russell was incredible, I really didn't know much that was going on. And like with the characters, and to me, it came off as one of those like teen jiggle flicks, horror movies, where you really don't care that much about people. Yet they did build suspense in one sequence that has to do with blood, but it was more of a suspense of when the thing was showing up, I didn't really care for the characters.
I will disagree with you there.
I told you you'd have disagreements.
I do feel like there was character development because we basically plunge right... What are you shaking your head at? We plunge right into a middle of a research station, and it's shown that these guys have been working together or have known each other for a very long time.
What were they researching?
We don't know that.
There we
But
go.
That has nothing to do with character development.
No.
That's just a plot hole. Anyways, they quickly snap, and you're seeing them develop because now they're conflicted, and some people are saying, well, it can't be him, it's got to be him, and it shows those old loyalties. So no, I disagree with you when it comes to the character development.
I got one more, so get ready for another one. My biggest problem with this movie is there's no structure for the alien. They come up with a whole bunch of great groovy special effects. I can't believe I said groovy.
You're really aging yourself.
Yeah, I know. But they came up with these amazing special effects. But it was almost like they had a bunch of like new people learning special effects and said, well, it doesn't matter exactly how it works as long as it looks cool. Because it seems like every time there's an attack, it does something different. And I kind of like more of a structure, so it's just almost like I don't understand. Like, they get a couple of rules that it works that I won't give away here. But then other times it morphs into things like, how is it possibly morphing like that?
But they explain that in the movie. They explain that it has the ability to imitate and then become whatever it's attaching itself to via the molecules. So it has an in-universe explanation as well as the whole structure thing. It's an alien. It's a very old alien, and there's no way that we can say that it should have structure because it does not come from Earth.
I know, but that to me seems like a big plot hole to me. It's like it can just do anything.
I mean, well,
I don't like that.
That could be said about any other sci-fi movie too.
Absolutely, but this one didn't. We knew what the alien in Aliens looked like.
Oh, so what you're saying is you don't know what the actual alien itself looks like.
One big part of it. And
Okay.
then sometimes there was like, it looked like an orgy of, that's allowed. There's nothing wrong with that word. They say that on kids shows. But sometimes there's like orgy with like legs and arms and a dog face
We're gonna
here.
have to flag this as mature.
Yeah, but it's like, what is this? 8 things all at once?
It's body horror. That's all it is. It's body horror.
Yeah, because they just don't have structure. It's like, okay, that looks cool. Anyhow,
God.
but honestly, I still think this movie is great, and if you like sci-fi horror, you should give it a watch.
I wholeheartedly agree. What are you giving this movie?
I'm going to give this 4 out of 5, because apparently I like structure in my aliens.
Apparently you do. Yeah, I'm also going to be giving it 4 out of 5. Just from the one bad practical effect as well as the one green screen effect there. I had to take points away. Otherwise, I felt it was a phenomenal movie. I'm going to own this movie after watching it now. And if you have not seen this movie, I definitely recommend it. If you do see it, what I'd recommend is watch it with your friends. Have that discussion afterwards with them too, because maybe it will set some tension between you and your friends, or maybe even your family as you watch this. Maybe you'll start to think, maybe I can't trust the person next to me. You never know. One thing
He never trusts me.
Oh yeah, okay. One thing I do know is that we will always be back for more, so make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment, let us know, have you seen The Thing? What are your theories behind it? Let us know down in the comments so that we can get involved with you down there. And then also make sure to share this with your friends so that they can get in on the action as well. Thank you so much for joining both Devlin and I. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time.
So what are we going to do?
Well, I guess there's nothing that we can do other than wait a bit and see what happens.